My name's Jennifer, and I'm 32 years old. I work in a busy city called New York, where people believe in working hard to succeed. My husband, Donnie, is 30 and works too. We got married 2 years ago. Donnie might seem a bit unreliable sometimes, but he's actually really kind. He's good at helping out with chores around the house. I'm a career-focused woman. I love my job and feel proud when I do well. In my job, if you work hard, you can move up. But there's a downside. Sometimes they might ask you to move to a different place. And if you want to have a baby, there's no rule about taking time off. Many women quit their jobs when they get married or have kids. I used to think the same way. I wanted to focus on my career and didn't plan on getting married. When Donnie asked me to marry him, I said no at first. I told him, I love my job. I'm in charge of a team now, but I want to go even higher. I can't imagine settling down or having kids. But Donnie understood. He promised we'd share the chores and wouldn't have kids. Eventually, I agreed to marry him because he was so understanding. Both Donnie and I work, so sometimes we don't split the chores exactly as we planned. But we help each other out, and I think we do pretty well. Sometimes my in-laws make annoying comments like, "You should focus more on your home than your job," or, "When are you having kids?" But it's not too bothersome because Donnie always supports me. Living with Donnie has been nice, and I've learned to enjoy being married. Then, one day, my boss, who's the head of our department, called me about a possible move to a different office. He said, "What do you think? You'd work at a branch office for a while, but you'd come back here after 2 years. You'd have a good position there, and if you do well, you'll get promoted when you come back. You might even become the first woman to lead a department. It's a pretty good opportunity, right?" Accepting or refusing this move could decide if I'll get promoted at my job. Everyone who's become a boss or higher has done a move like this. If I say no, I might stay in my current job, but I could also get moved to a less important position. Before I got married, I would have taken this chance right away, but now, being married made me feel hesitant. I told my boss, "Thank you for thinking of me. Personally, I'm interested, but since it involves moving, I want to talk to my husband first. Can I give you an answer after that?" He said, "All right, you're married. You can choose to go alone or move with your family. Talk it over. I'm hoping for a yes." When I got home, I talked to Donnie about it. I've been offered a job transfer. I might have to move to the countryside, but if I do well for 2 years, I can come back here. And if I keep doing well, I could get promoted. "I want to take this offer if you're okay with it, Donnie. We can move together, or I can go alone. What do you think?" At first, Donnie was surprised, but then he thought about it and said, "If you take this transfer, Jennifer, your dream could come true, right? I can't move with you because I have my job here, but don't worry about me. Go for it." With Donnie's support, I told the company I'd go for the transfer alone and started discussing the details. They agreed to pay for my moving costs and offered some good benefits, like considering my travel days as work days. So I decided to accept the transfer to the branch office. I got the official transfer order and chose to live in a company apartment, which was affordable. On moving day, the movers had already taken my stuff, and Donnie came to say goodbye at the station. "Thanks for seeing me off. I'll keep in touch, and I'll try to come home as much as I can." "Yeah, I'll be waiting. But remember, even though you're working from afar, don't overdo it," Donnie said. "You too," I replied. "It's time. Take care, okay? I'm heading out," Donnie said as he left. And that's how my life as a remote worker began. I planned to come home during holidays and quieter times, but things got rocky at the branch office right after I arrived. "I won't take orders from a woman. How can I trust someone new like her?" one of the local employees complained. I faced resistance from the staff there. They spread rumors about me, didn't listen to my instructions, and even ignored my calls. And then things got worse when a project I was overseeing had a big mistake because one of my team members deliberately kept me out of the loop. The subordinate who was responsible looked really shocked, but as the boss, it was my job to handle it. I had to fix the problem, apologize, and not only get things back on track, but also mend relationships with my team. My boss saw how tough things were for me and gave me some advice. "I've been through a transfer too, so I get it. It might not seem fair, but you can't just push your way through. It's important to communicate well, understand others, and build relationships horizontally." So I followed my boss's advice. I spent more time getting to know everyone at the branch and even joined the neighborhood association since the company's housing was part of it. Before I knew it, I was so busy that I couldn't find time for myself, let alone go back home where my husband was waiting. I kept in touch with him, but after a few months of remote work, it got hard to reach him at night. I'm working late every day because work is tough. I get tired and end up falling asleep. As my husband made excuses and I got busier with work, I didn't suspect anything and focused more on my job. Once during a slow work period on a long holiday, I decided to go back home to New York on short notice. But I couldn't reach my husband by phone or text, so I returned from my remote work without telling him. When I opened the door to our home after a long time away, something felt strange. Then a woman I didn't recognize rushed to the door, saying, "Justin, welcome back. If I knew you were coming home early, I would have prepared." We both froze, staring at each other in shock. Finally, the woman spoke up, "Sorry, but who are you?" "And who are you?" "This is my house." "Wait, what?" "I live here." After arguing and getting nowhere, we decided to check the house number outside. To my surprise, it matched the custom nameplate I had ordered. The key works, and the nameplate's right. "This is my house." "I'm going in," I insisted. "Wait, what?" "Stop." Ignoring her protests, I pushed past her and entered the house. Inside, everything had changed. The curtains, the furniture, all of it. There was a photo of my husband and the woman at a theme park, mugs I'd never seen before, and unfamiliar toothbrushes and skincare items in the bathroom. The bed linens were different, and the wardrobe held only the woman's clothes. My husband's stuff was hidden away in a back room. As I stood there in shock, I heard the front door open. "I'm home." "Oh, Lola, did you invite a friend over?" "Justin, thank goodness you're back." This woman just barged into our house. The man the woman called Justin was definitely my husband, Donnie. Seeing me, he looked surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Donnie, why is she calling you Justin? Can you explain what's happening?" I asked him. "What do you mean? This is Justin, right?" "Justin." "Well, actually," my husband seemed flustered under our questioning. "Lola, his real name is Donnie. Isn't that what's on your driver's license? And I'm Donnie's wife, Jennifer." "That's not true. He told me he was divorced." "Donnie, you need to explain everything clearly," I insisted. "Jennifer, you were gone for so long, and I was lonely. So I thought I'd try a dating app, and that's where I met Lola," Donnie explained. "So Justin is your fake name on the dating app?" I questioned. "No, it's not like that. I was worried if my real name came out. It might cause problems, so I used a different first name but kept my last name," Donnie clarified. "And why did you lie about being divorced?" I pressed further. Lola's profile said she'd never dated a man before and was serious about finding someone for marriage. It struck a chord with me, so I lied about being divorced to win her over. "We started living together," Donnie admitted. "Why would you do something like that?" I asked, puzzled. At that moment, my husband began justifying his actions defiantly. "It's because you're always away for work. It's natural for a man to want companionship. We've been living separate lives because of your job and the long hours. I just wanted a warm home where my wife would be there with dinner when I got back." I was shocked to hear this, as I always thought my husband understood and supported my career, but that doesn't excuse what you did. What you did was wrong. If you wanted to be with someone else, you should have ended our marriage first. Why didn't you do the right thing? I cared about both of you. I never wanted to leave either of you. After everything you've done, I was bound to find out when I came back. It's unbelievable that you thought you could deceive me like this. Well, it's your fault for not keeping your promise and coming back. If you had, I wouldn't have even thought about cheating. What on earth? I've told you how hard work has been, and you still did this. I yelled, feeling a mix of anger and hurt. Our argument escalated into a shouting match, with the woman my husband cheated with standing there, looking stunned. She realized she'd been tricked by a married man into his mess. "So everything was a lie. You played me for a fool." "I'm leaving right now," she exclaimed. "Lola, wait, it's not what you think," my husband pleaded, but it was too late. My husband tried to stop the other woman from leaving, but she brushed him off, repulsed. "Don't touch me with your filthy hands. I can't believe a single word you say," she cursed before storming out, packing her things and leaving for her parents' house. Furious with my husband, I decided to take action against his betrayal. Gathering evidence, I brought it back with me when I returned to work. The first thing I did was hire a detective to look into my husband's mistress. The investigation revealed that she was the daughter of an executive at a company partnered with my husband's workplace. I had a lawyer send proof of the affair to both my husband's home and the other woman's parents. When my husband received the documents, he protested, saying he didn't want a divorce. So I prepared for a tough legal battle, even considering going to court. The other woman's family contacted my lawyer, and we arranged to meet at their office. They apologized to me, and the other woman admitted her wrongdoing. "We're truly sorry. Our daughter caused you so much trouble, and we didn't even know about it. She's always been very sheltered and naive about the world. We've been trying to arrange a marriage for her, but she wanted a more free-spirited love. She met your husband without our knowledge and got carried away without knowing who he really was. She thought she found a divorced man on a dating app and wanted to move in with him. We told her to stop seeing him, but she didn't listen. She was so caught up in her fantasies that she ran away from home to be with him. Our daughter was shocked to find out she was the other woman and blames herself. She's getting therapy now. We're willing to pay you $50,000 as a settlement and hope you'll keep this matter private." The other woman and her parents shook my hand firmly. "I understand your apology, but I have one condition. I'm preparing for a divorce, but my husband won't agree. If you're willing to cooperate and provide testimony if this goes to trial, then I'll accept the settlement." "Okay, we'll cooperate, but we don't want our daughter to have a permanent record of this. Is there any other way we can help punish him?" "Well, it just so happens that his workplace is our client." In an unexpected turn of events, the woman my husband cheated with and I teamed up. We planned to give him a taste of his own medicine. His workplace was about to face a crisis because he had upset an executive at one of their client companies. And guess who would take the fall? Only my husband. Meanwhile, back at home, his parents were trying to reach out to him, unaware of the chaos. "Jennifer isn't answering our calls, and she won't call back either. Is she so caught up in work that she forgot about us? When is she coming back? We miss seeing our grandchild," his mother said. "Mom, you don't get it. I cheated on Jennifer while she was away, and now it looks like we're headed for divorce," my husband confessed. His mother replied, "That woman who puts work before her husband is to blame. Maybe it's better if you end things with Jennifer and get back together with the woman you cheated with." My in-laws seemed to think that the other woman's family had more money than ours, so they sided with my husband and his lover, attacking me relentlessly. They called me repeatedly, but I blocked their calls. Then they started calling me at work. When I refused to talk to them, they showed up at my workplace, causing a scene. "Let go of our son. It's because of you being such a career-focused woman that our son cheated. He'd be happier with his lover, so stop interfering," they demanded. "What are you even saying? I want to divorce Donnie. He's the one refusing. Plus, the woman he cheated with doesn't want him back. He tricked the daughter of a big-shot executive into dating him, and they're furious. It's going to be a big mess," I explained. Once they realized their son had angered an important client, my in-laws suddenly changed sides and tried to be nice to me. "We had no idea it was this serious. We must have misunderstood. We're sorry. Our son messed up, but he feels bad. You'll forgive him, right, Jennifer?" they pleaded. "I have to decline. You just insulted me, and now you're asking for forgiveness? Please leave," I told them firmly. When they refused to leave, I had security escort them out. Because of the scene they caused, my company decided to sue them for disrupting business. After all the drama, I finally got the compensation from my husband and got the divorce. The other woman's family also demanded compensation for their daughter's suffering and therapy costs. With the loss of his job and having to pay hefty settlements, my husband was now in deep debt. He couldn't afford to quit, and he was trapped. 2 years had passed since my assignment started. When everything settled down, I finished my assignment successfully and was getting ready to go back to the main office. My hard work paid off, and I got promoted to department manager. If I hadn't taken the assignment, I might still be stuck in a loveless marriage. But I realize now that a man like him would have cheated sooner or later, and I would have clashed with his parents anyway. I've learned that I'm better suited for work than family life, and I'm incredibly fulfilled and happy now. Wouldn't it have been embarrassing to display a painting like that on the front porch? My daughter-in-law, Macy, who had sold my prize painting on a flea market app without my permission, stated flatly, My mother had done a colored pencil drawing of Gerberis for me from her hospital bed before she died. That drawing was a memento of my late mother. I know, but I can't hang an amateur drawing because it's too shabby, Macy insisted. Do you think you should talk to me like that, even though you were my daughter-in-law? I said boldly, but Macy was unfazed. She drew her arms across her chest and stared at me. Please consider your position. We will be taking care of you in the future, right? It's that deciding line again. So, you're allowed to sell my belongings without my permission. I'm your one and only son's wife. Think about how much we're going to take care of you, Macy retorted. She gave me one more look before walking out the door, her luxury brand shoes clacking. I'd be moving into a new house alone the next day. Macy knew this and sold the painting to harass me. Henry, my son, and Macy, my daughter-in-law, had sold my belongings without my permission before. I was furious but resigned to the fact that I would never get them back. But I'll never forgive her for selling my mother's mementos. Both Macy and Henry, who was always at her disposal, irritated me. I decided to completely cut ties with my son and his wife when I moved into my new house tomorrow. My husband's son and wife can live in this old house. I am Amy, a 50-year-old housewife. For years, I did all of the housework while working part-time at a factory. I looked after my family, which includes my husband, my only son, and as of 3 years ago, my daughter-in-law, Macy. My mother, who raised me as a single mother, died 6 months ago. She left me a large sum of money from her life insurance policy. I took advantage of the opportunity to purchase a small new house and decided to divorce my husband, with whom I had a strained relationship. The day before I moved in, Macy sold my mother's painting without my permission. When I told my husband we were splitting up, he simply said, "Do whatever you want." During our many years as a couple, our relationship had cooled. I believe neither of us did anything wrong and that what happened was unavoidable. My son and his wife, who lived with us, were the ones who were against my leaving. "Who will do the housework if you leave? Aren't you a housewife?" my son asked. "I am a civil servant like Henry, so I am not like you, who only works part-time," I retorted. "It's appalling to hear a mother throw her family out of the house," my son's wife chimed in. They both continued to complain as I was packing. "First and foremost, why are you buying a house now?" my son questioned. "It's the money my mother left me, and it's up to me what I do with it," I replied firmly. "When the insurance money arrives, you should put it to good use for your family. A house where you'll live alone is squandering money," my son's wife added. "She's right. You should have shared grandmother's insurance money with us," my son insisted. Henry's wife was a brand-obsessed woman who never washed a single pair of underwear and was constantly taking dance, yoga, English conversation, and other classes. My son, who was at her beck and call, blamed me all at the same time. This was enough for me. My friend Jane, who lives near my new house, invited me over the night I moved in to join her for dinner. "Thank you very much. I still haven't unpacked anything," I said gratefully. Jane's house is magnificent. She and her husband both love dogs, so they built a house to accommodate a large dog. In fact, 3 Dobermans are currently resting quietly in the living room's corner. While eating a hamburger Jane had prepared for me, I opened up to her about Henry and Macy. "What's the deal with your daughter-in-law?" "And I'm sorry, but your son is also pitiful," Jane remarked. "Henry used to be a stronger person, but now he's at the mercy of his wife. I'm tired of it," I sighed, feeling a sense of frustration. One of the large dogs approached me and nuzzled my feet, as if to console me. It was Hannah, the female of the 3 Dobermans. "Hannah is much gentler than my son. All of our dogs are smart and good," I said, petting her gently. Jane, being so good with dogs, used to be a trainer. Her 3 new dogs, although large and scary in appearance, were really gentle and extremely intelligent. They would never attack anyone, but they would bark at uninvited guests if Jane instructed them to. "I wish I had a dog as gentle as Hannah is," I remarked. "Why don't you get yourself one? I'll train it for you. Indeed, you're free to do whatever you want as of today in your new house. You begin a new life, isn't that right?" Jane suggested. I thought so too. "Macy and I are moving to my parents' house next month," I shared. At the end of the month, my son called me with surprising news. I had just gotten used to living alone and was starting to enjoy my independence. I reflected. "Your parents' house? Oh, you're moving to Macy's parents' house," my son said. "No, it's my mother's house, my home. You already live at your father's house," I clarified. I wasn't sure what he was saying, but I knew one thing for certain. I was ready for this new chapter in my life. I spoke with Macy after realizing that my parents' house belonged solely to my mother, not my father. We decided to move to her house. No, my house isn't big enough for the three of us, Macy objected. I was adamant about not putting up with Henry and Macy bossing me around and making me do all of the housework. But one of the rooms does have a place to sleep. You can sleep in the living room corner, and we can use that space as our bedroom, Macy suggested. Don't be ridiculous. What are you talking about? You want me to sleep in the living room corner? I could feel my face getting hot with rage. We're coming even if you don't like it. I'll start by shipping you a couple of boxes, Henry interjected. I'm not going to accept them, I retorted. Well then, I'll think of something. Anyway, I'm coming, so please look after me, Henry said abruptly, then hung up the phone. I don't want this. I despise the idea of Henry and Macy bossing me around and forcing me to do all the housework. That is something I will not allow to happen, I declared to Jane the next day as we went to a family restaurant. I wanted her to listen to my story. I'm sorry, but you have the worst son and daughter-in-law, Jane remarked as she sipped her latte. You must not accept it under any circumstances. You must politely say no, she continued. Well, since it is those two, they might hire a moving company. I don't know what to do, I replied, feeling overwhelmed. To wash down my pitiful feelings, I took a sip of jasmine tea. I enjoy this tea, but it is quite bitter, I remarked. It is difficult to say no when the movers will come. If we're not careful, we might get into trouble, Jane observed. We have to do something to make them not want to come to my house. I can't stand the way they're acting, I insisted. Well, we could ask my children for help, Jane suggested. What, Hannah and the dogs? I asked, referring to Jane's 3 kids, her 3 beloved Dobermans. My dogs will bark, growl, and act out to some extent on command. I could ask them to scare them away or something. In fact, my son has been afraid of dogs since he was a child, Jane explained. It's difficult to live with a son and his wife who would sell their mother's mementos without permission. So let's come up with something, I agreed. Thank you very much, Jane, I added, feeling a little relieved as a result of our conversation. When I returned home, I discovered that my son and his wife were serious. 2 large cardboard boxes had been stacked in front of the front door. These are Henry's and my possessions. We thought you would refuse the courier, so I brought them. We will move in next month, so please keep them in the house. Macy, I read the note attached to the cardboard box, feeling my shoulders slump in disappointment. With no other option, I brought the box inside, and upon opening it, I discovered numerous personal belongings belonging to Henry and Macy. There were Henry's imported watches and leather jackets, alongside Macy's designer bags, clothes, and shoes. They must have left behind valuable items, which I wouldn't discard without permission. It felt like a dirty move. How little they must think of me to sell off my mother's paintings or leave this luggage without my permission. Jane's voice from the family restaurant came to mind. Well, we could ask my children for help, she had suggested. Since settling in after the move, I occasionally accompanied Jane on dog walks. She often invites me for a change of scenery, being a great friend to have. It means a lot to me. Why don't you sell their belongings? Macy would sell them on her own, wouldn't she? Jane proposed. Yes, even the memento my mother painted, I'd replied as Moon, a male dog, looked at me from the end of the leash I was holding. By the way, why do your son and his wife want to live with you? They're both government employees and have money, so why don't they just live together? Jane inquired. They don't like doing housework, especially Macy because she's always learning, going out to play, or watching fashion and makeup videos. So, you've been doing all the housework by yourself, I confirmed. Yes, my husband never did it, and Henry works overtime and travels a lot, and Macy is the same way, I explained, recalling the conversation between my son and his wife on the day. I made the announcement of my departure from our home met with immediate concern about who would handle the housework. If you leave the house, who will do the housework? Henry asked. Well, you can, I replied. No, obviously not. I want your mother to do it. Jane sighed in disgust upon hearing this. It wasn't until a week later that I received several phone calls from Macy, who had been persistently trying to reach me. Your house is quite small, right? Macy finally asked after dozens of calls. Yes, that's what I said, I confirmed. Henry said he saw you with 3 big dogs, And I wonder if 3 dogs like that could live in a small house. Macy expressed her concern. Her fear of dogs struck me then. There are people all over the world who are terrified of dogs. One of them is Henry, I realized. Jane must have been with me when Henry saw her, but he must have been completely distracted by the dogs. I told you it's a small house. If you're worried, why don't you come back and take a look? I suggested. I will. I want to check the inside of the house. Macy's voice unraveled a little. Finally, Macy decided that there was no dog in the house. Anyway, I'll be there this Sunday at 10 a.m., she said before hanging up. Unexpectedly, I realized I could take my revenge. On Sunday, Henry and Macy came to my house as planned. You really came? I asked, surprised. I said I would come. You know it's because you bought the house on a whim that we're in this messy situation, Macy remarked as they took off their shoes and entered the house. That's really true. You should have stayed quiet and continued to do the housework like before, I replied, feeling a sense of satisfaction. Okay, that's it, I said, opening the living room door, gloating in my mind. Whoa! Ah! My son and his wife screamed in unison the next moment. There were 2 Dobermans, Moon and Sky, sitting there. What are you kidding me, Mother? This dog, Henry began. These are my dogs. Aren't they cute? Jane, the dog trainer, interrupted, standing up from the sofa and smiling at me. Jane found them for me. They are so cute because they are well trained. Moon, Sky, how do you say hello to our guests? The dogs barked at the same time. Macy said, oh no, and sat down with her head in her hands. Is she that bad with dogs? I wondered. Oh, they are so cute, Henry exclaimed. Don't worry, Moon, Sky, play with them, Jane encouraged. At the sound of her voice, the 2 dogs ran over to Henry and Macy respectively. They raised their paws, wagging their tails as if to say, let's play. Stop. Oh no, I'm scared, Macy exclaimed, shaking her head and beginning to wriggle as Moon invited her to play. But Macy didn't understand. I'm scared of dogs, Macy exclaimed, her fear evident as she burst into tears, snot running out of her nose. Oh dear, if you're going to live in my house, you'll have to get along with these kids too. Make them stop, I insisted. Macy's breakdown ruined the makeup she had studied on YouTube and was so proud of. Her mascara was running, and the smudged eyeshadow spread to her cheeks. With this tear-streaked face, she looked like she was about to take the train home. Hey Mom, do something about it, Henry pleaded. Meanwhile, Henry, who had been jostled by the much larger Sky, fell on his backside and began to scoot away. Sky, thinking he was playing, happily jumped on Henry. No, stop it. The dog is too big and scary, Henry cried out. I suddenly looked at Henry's jeans and saw that the color of his crotch had darkened a bit. He was so afraid of the dog that he had peed himself. How pathetic. Moon, Sky, come here. Jane decided it was time to stop and called the dogs. Immediately, the 2 dogs left Henry and Macy and returned to her. Moon, Sky, down, Jane commanded, and with that one word, the dogs lay down at her feet. They really are smart kids, I remarked, feeling proud of my dog's obedience. Until now, even though I've been slaving away at my part-time job and housework, you've never helped me. Besides, when I said I was going to leave, you decided to live on your own. Do you think your mother is stupid? I finally spat out the words I had been holding back as my son and his wife stood up, crying. I left home because I was fed up with you. I am not your housekeeper, I declared firmly. But doesn't that mean you have to? Henry began before I interrupted him. He's a well-trained and smart dog and much gentler than you, I retorted, gesturing towards Moon and Sky, who were calmly lying down. Henry and Macy lacked their usual air of bravado, a husband with a wet crotch and a wife whose makeup was a mess. They made the perfect couple. You also sold off my precious things without my permission. I will never forgive you for selling my mother's painting, I added, looking at Moon and Sky before turning my gaze back to my son and his wife. A house with 2 dogs this big is something we don't want. Henry agreed. That's right, we'll give up moving. So give me back the stuff we left behind the other day, then we'll go home, Macy demanded. They're still in the boxes in the next room. Take it and get out of here, I replied, pointing to the next room. Henry and Macy took a wide turn to avoid the dogs before opening the door. Whoa! They both screamed again and fell on their butts as they saw another Doberman, Hannah, sitting right next to the boxes in the room. Mom, the boxes, please get them, Macy pleaded. I don't want to, You brought them yourself, so take them yourself, I insisted. Peeking into the room, I saw Hannah just sitting there with a calm expression on her face. I can't go near a dog like that, Macy protested. Then give up your stuff, I replied firmly. You mean I should leave it? My bags and Henry's watches are in that box, Macy argued. You also got rid of my precious things without my permission, didn't you? I reminded her. I didn't ask you to leave them behind. I'm telling you, take it with you, I insisted firmly, glaring at Macy. She paused for a moment, perhaps remembering the presence of the dogs, and then lowered her eyes with a sigh. Please, Mother, bring us the boxes, Macy finally relented, her tone softer. You knew how important that painting that she sold off was to me, but you didn't stop her, I reminded her. Well, I'm sorry about that, but, Macy began, but she was interrupted by Jane's arrival. Hannah, how do we greet our guests? Jane asked calmly. Immediately, Hannah sat down and barked loudly. No, stop it, Macy cried out. Hearing Hannah's voice, my son and his wife reached their limit. With his wet jeans and her face covered in smudged makeup, they ran to the front door and got out of the house. After that, I sold all the personal belongings Henry and Macy had left behind to a pawn shop. I discovered that their belongings were of considerable luxury, with Henry's watch having a surprisingly high value and Macy's bag being of a particularly high class. The extravagance of these items left me in a state of dismay. Back at her house, Macy ended up being responsible for all the household chores. My former husband did not like Macy's housework. He constantly complained that the food was bad, the house was dirty, and the laundry was piled up. Macy could no longer go to her lessons because of her housework, and she gained 10 kilograms due to the stress. All of her frustration seemed to be directed at Henry. Mom, I'm at my limit, Macy finally admitted, starting to hit me. She's been fighting with Dad all the time. I want a divorce. One day, Henry called me, his voice exhausted. You chose your own wife, didn't you? You can take care of yourself. Of course, I would not give advice to Henry. I was sick and tired of being involved with that couple. Meanwhile, I bought a female Shiba Inu and asked Jane to train her. She's going to be a great dog. Jane smiled as she patted the head of the puppy I named Rio. Really, it's all thanks to you. I'm sorry for making the dogs play such an unpleasant role. Okay, I replied. When I heard what you said, I was more upset than you were. But from now on, you and Rio can live together peacefully. Yes, from now on, I will enjoy my life and my time, I affirmed, feeling determined as I gently picked up the puppy. I'm pregnant with your husband's child. I was speechless at my sister's sudden confession. So, I want a divorce. I'm going to remarry your husband, she declared. I'm sorry I stole your husband, a doctor earning $10,000 a month, she continued. Next to my sister, my husband was looking down at me with a serious face and her hand was tightly holding his. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. What's with that face? As usual, you're ugly. That's why your husband had a change of heart. From now on, you're going to live on your meager salary, my sister said with a loud laugh, making my heart feel cold. I'm the one who wants to say sorry, I thought, as they probably didn't know. I was laughing in my heart without telling them about my sister's terrible misunderstanding. My name is Jessica. I've been married to Brandon for 3 years. I met my husband at a university tennis club. Tennis was my only stress relief in my suffocating university life, which was full of studying. Since the club was a cheerful activity, I often sacrificed my study time to play. You have a nice form, he said. My husband, who was in a different faculty and didn't seem busy studying, always approached me when I visited the club. I played tennis until high school. I quit playing seriously because of an injury, but you're good at it. It's completely different from me, who is just playing for fun, he said. I can teach you. I think we're a great match, he added. I believed his words, which seemed like typical pickup lines from the bottom of my heart. In fact, I had never dated a man before and had hardly even had a proper conversation because I was always studying. I was completely taken in by my husband's positive attitude. I had no idea of the hard times awaiting me 5 years later. After graduating from university, we got married. Although it would be a lie to say we had no fights or breakups during our school years, I always forgave my husband's sloppy behavior, and our relationship dragged on until graduation. I'm sure I'll become a good husband, he said. How much I believed in his proposal, I wonder now, but at that time, I still trusted my husband. There were feelings from our 5-year-old relationship that lingered. He wasn't a bad person at heart, and I accepted his proposal with a rather light feeling. We both started working. I had a strong desire to work, and my husband didn't oppose me going out. Rather, he encouraged me to pursue my career. With the income of 2 people, we had a substantial household income. Having this much economic freedom at a young age, we were blessed. We didn't have children because it was still early in our careers. We focused on setting up our lives first. I was climbing up the career ladder smoothly and having fulfilling days. One day, I inadvertently picked up my husband's smartphone that he had left in the living room. There was a message from an unknown name. Normally, I tried not to pry into his privacy, but my husband had a history of passive cheating. Back in our student days, he was secretly communicating with a girl from another club. I entered my husband's birthday and easily unlocked his smartphone. I opened the messaging app and was shocked. As I feared, there were flirty exchanges with a particular woman recorded. I immediately confronted my husband. His confused state was like a monkey in the zoo. "It's not like that. This was just a lapse in judgment," he said. "So, you admit cheating? You had a relationship with this woman?" I asked. "Well, he stammered. "Let's make love at our usual hotel. Kisses. You're not young to send such a message," I read aloud. "She is a high school graduate and a newcomer," I added. Summing up my husband's story, he basically cheated with a new female employee. My husband was her trainer. It's a common story, but I wondered what kind of education he was giving her. "I'm really sorry. I swear I won't make such a mistake again," he pleaded. In the end, I forgave my groveling husband. This had been happening since our university days. I couldn't help but sigh at my husband's sloppy attitude. Unlike our student days, we had too many obligations. If we were to divorce, we'd have to report it to our families, friends, and co-workers, which would disappoint them. Honestly, it was easier to give my husband another chance than to deal with such troublesome things. I made him write an apology letter. If he made the same mistake again, he wouldn't get away with it. That was the promise. And so our married life continued, barely surviving several storms. One day, I received a call from my mother with the news of my father's death. According to her, he had collapsed on the way home from drinking and was taken to the hospital. It appeared to be a stroke. His discovery was late and it was the middle of winter, so he unfortunately never came back to life. He was 60 years old, just before retirement. I took care of all the funeral arrangements. My mother cried all the time and wasn't in any condition to manage. With the support of relatives and a hollowed-out mother, I barely managed to complete the funeral proceedings. I felt sorry for the inconvenience to my workplace, but my colleagues and superiors never complained. I'll never forget their support. One issue was dealing with my sister. I have a sister 2 years older than me, named Anna. After graduating from high school, she left our parents' home, so I hadn't seen her for nearly 10 years. Her circumstances were problematic. My sister had always been a troublemaker, causing trouble for our parents. She had been involved with the police more than once or twice. Her relationships with men were particularly unrestrained, and she had been involved with multiple adult men since junior high school, some of whom were married. Because of her behavior, my parents scolded her all the time. "Live a decent life. Don't ruin your own life," they would advise, but it didn't resonate with her at all. Finally, it was discovered that she had secretly given money from our house to a male host, which led to a huge fight with both of our parents, especially our father. "Get out," my father declared, disowning her. It was not surprising that he excluded her from his inheritance. "I don't even think of you as my daughter anymore," my father declared. In response, my sister retorted and stormed out of the house. "Who would want to come back to such a poor and gloomy place?" she shouted as she left. True to her words, my sister never showed her face again until our father passed away. Even though I had to inform her of our father's death, my mom said, "There's no need for that." But I couldn't ignore my sister. Her cell phone number was still the same, so I sent her a short message informing her of our father's passing. There was no contact from my sister until just before the funeral. If she doesn't come, it's fine then, I thought. Just when I was beginning to believe she wouldn't show up, my sister finally arrived at the post-cremation meal. Her face, with makeup 3 times thicker than before, was a stark contrast to her appearance 10 years ago. "Huh, so you got married without updating our late father," she remarked, noticing that I had brought my husband. My husband, who had managed to attend the ceremony during a break from work, had been timid and meek until my sister showed up. He was not the type of person to handle ceremonial situations briskly. Your husband isn't bad looking. Did you meet him at work? My sister inquired. We met through a club in college. Our workplaces are completely different, I replied. Huh, you cooked a good one. You were always studying, right? Well, if you got a man with a decent education, that's good. You don't seem to be struggling with money. Since one of us is a doctor, the salary is decent. We both work, but more importantly, you should properly greet our father, I said, trying to steer the conversation back to the matter at hand. A doctor? My sister's eyes seemed to plot something, and she may have even licked her lips. My husband, subjected to her snake-like gaze, was simply flustered. We disbanded that day, and my sister, who said she would contact me soon, never did. She didn't contribute any condolence money, and I had no intention of following up on my mother's lament. Things started to get strange about 6 months later. Although the sadness of losing my father had not yet healed, I had almost completely forgotten about the days of the funeral and my sister. But it seemed my sister remembered well about my husband Brandon. After work, I saw a familiar figure near the station. The navy suit was the one I had just cleaned for him yesterday. What surprised me was the sight of the woman next to him. They were holding hands, looking friendly. Again, my husband's bad habits. As the flames of anger flared up, I realized my husband's crime was not just that. This time, I was more taken aback than angry. Next to my husband, flaunting her mini skirt, was my sister Anna, holding his hand. My husband was cheating with my own sister. I blurted it out involuntarily, then decided to follow them. If this is truly an affair, I will not forgive my husband this time. I've been tormented by my husband's womanizing many times, but if it's with my own sister, it's beyond a joke. Moreover, the occasion where they met face to face was at my dad's funeral. I'll definitely catch them in the act. I grit my teeth and focus on not losing sight of them. As expected, they headed towards the hotel district. It was still daytime. My husband was supposed to be at work. I wondered what kind of excuse he used to leave the office. They walked past numerous hotels, glued even closer together. At one of the hotels where they finally stopped, they started kissing. Disgusting. This was the first time I had witnessed my husband's infidelity. Then they went into the hotel in front of them. I called my husband's smartphone after letting the two of them off the hook for a while, holding back my nausea. After an irritating wait, my husband finally picked up the phone. What is it? I'm working. There's something I really need to check with you. Who are you with right now? Who? You know, of course, I'm with my colleagues and boss. We have an important meeting coming up. Oh, so you have important meetings at the Love Hotel Jewelry Resort? Quite a flippant name, isn't it? How do you? I also know that my sister is with you. You're the one who needs to explain. Just wait there with my sister. After I had my ace up my sleeve, Brendan's voice seemed muffled and raspy. Finally, after checking with my sister, he informed me of the room number. All right, I said, bracing myself and storming into the hotel. I explained the situation to the receptionist and paid for another room. After all the humiliation he has put me through, I won't show any mercy to my husband. When I opened the door to room 402, my husband was waiting there with a pale face. He was already dressed in a gown, having taken off his suit. My sister wore the same gown and had a mocking expression on her face. The pitiful wife showed up. She started, smoking and showing no sign of remorse. On the contrary, she seemed to be enjoying the situation just like half a year ago. Her makeup was heavily plastered like paint. First, I confronted my sister, who was making a creepy face. Anna, what are you thinking? You knew he's my husband and you laid your hands on him, didn't you? Well, it's frustrating. After being kicked out of the house, I've had a really hard time. I was even abandoned by the host I was sponsoring. I didn't have a single thing going well for me. Despite all that, you live a happy married life. You left home because of your selfishness, right? You troubled your parents till the end. And now you will try to ruin my family too. The chaos had been there from the start. I heard from Brandon how pitiful it is because you always say harsh things. He doesn't even have a moment of peace at home. That's why I've been comforting him. Don't say whatever you want. This is a problem within our family. So you're just not satisfying your husband, are you? A boring woman like you. I'm different in that respect. I'm satisfying him. That's why we've been going out for half a year now. You're lying. It's been since right after my father's funeral. Understand me, Jessica. I was at my limit too. You were always nagging me, and there was hardly any marital affection. We haven't even been intimate for over a year now, Brandon said, exposing our marital issues in front of my sister. Embarrassed to the point of tears, I shot back, the reason we couldn't stay as a couple was because of your womanizing. Have you forgotten your promise that you would never cheat again? And on top of that, how come it's with my sister? Besides, right after my father's funeral. Hey, stop belittling Brandon. He's not yours anymore, right, Brandon? My sister interjected, whispering something to him. He lifted his head, which had been lowered, and turned to me with determination. Now I was the one taken aback. Jessica, please divorce me. We're having a baby. What? You heard it. I'm pregnant now. Of course, the father is Brandon. We've been making love almost every week since then, and this belly is the fruit of that, my sister said, lovingly stroking her belly. I was left speechless. This was no accident but a deliberate act. From the start, my sister intended to steal my husband, and my husband also intended to end our marriage. That's why they didn't use contraception. They went out of their way to show me the baby in her belly. Too bad. You don't stand a chance. He's mine now. He's leaving you and marrying me, right, Brandon? Yeah, let's be happy together. No, the three of us with our baby. I will do my best. You've been dumped. Truly, my condolences. There goes your elegant lifestyle. From now on, that will be mine. My sister laughed. After her laughter echoed, I left the hotel room. To be honest, I don't remember how I made it home. I vomited 3 times in the toilet. As I rushed up my stomach acid, I couldn't stop crying. I was more upset about being betrayed than about losing my husband. My husband and sister trampled on my humanity. Moreover, they made use of the baby. I cried all night and greeted the morning with a drained body. From that day on, my husband did not come home. There was no doubt that he had moved in with my sister. Soon, he would probably come to pack up his things and bring divorce papers, along with the wedding ring we chose together 5 years ago. It was the worst day of my life. Nevertheless, I couldn't afford to take a day off from work. There were people who depended on me. Above all, now only my work was my anchor. Holding back nausea and tears, I gritted my teeth and headed to the workplace. A week later, while I was working as usual, my husband and sister showed up in front of me. I wasn't very surprised, but the two of them seemed quite shocked. My sister, sitting in a chair for patients and holding her belly, stared at me in astonishment as I stood there in my white coat. "Why are you here?" she asked. "Because this is the obstetrics and gynecology department, and I am on duty today. The doctor who usually examines you is off due to some circumstances." "You were a doctor? But why?" "Brandon was supposed to be the doctor," my sister said, looking puzzled as she glanced between my husband and me. I found it funny and explained, "You must have misunderstood, sister. I am the one who is a doctor. I worked hard to get into medical school." "But at the funeral, Brandon said he was a doctor. You got yourself a highly educated husband," she replied. "I only said that if one person is a doctor, the salary will be decent. You misunderstood that." "But Brandon said he was a doctor," she insisted. As my sister's gaze Peterson, my husband, who seemed to have come along as an escort, turned pale and began to stammer clumsy excuses like a fish washed up on the beach. "No, I was actually thinking of talking to you seriously, but then you mentioned getting pregnant. So you lied about being a doctor just to impress my sister and sleep with her. How pathetic. You're a low-paid salesman," I said. "Well, that's..." "What do you mean, low-paid? What about $1 million a month? We've already started looking at luxury apartments and even contacted a car dealer to get a car. I've already maxed out my credit card on designer bags and shoes," my sister interjected. "Why would you waste money like that? And why is Jessica even at this hospital? She's supposed to be working at a different hospital." "That's why I brought her here," my husband said, bewildered. "When I took time off for my father's funeral, the doctor from this hospital helped me out multiple times. Now she has a situation, so I'm returning the favor. I've been working hard even while you two were cheating on me," I explained. "Jessica, listen, this is the end of us. I'm fed up with you. Go ahead and divorce or remarry, but make sure to pay me alimony," I demanded. "Wait, Jessica. I was wrong. I'll change my ways this time. Let's forget about the divorce for now," my husband pleaded. "What are you saying? Remember when you cheated with that girl from your office? You promised me that if it happened again, You pay whatever amount of alimony I demanded, I reminded him, showing the written pledge I had taken a picture with my smartphone, complete with his signature and thumbprint. My husband let out a silent scream. At least 5 million yen. No, considering it was right after my father's funeral, I could even add a bit more. I'll contact a good lawyer. You two can wait and tremble, I said firmly. Wait, does that mean I have to pay alimony too? Are you going to demand it from me? My sister asked, panicking. Of course, that's what it means to steal your sister's husband. Don't worry, I'll give you a grace period until the baby is born. That's my moral obligation as an obstetrician. But make sure you pay up after the baby is born. I'll have you give up all your designer bags and shoes, and I'll add the funeral offering for my father. You'll apologize on your knees in front of his grave, I declared. I glared at my sister and walked away to start the regular examination. As soon as I instructed her to get on the bed, my sister fled the examination room, perhaps afraid of me wearing rubber gloves. My husband, who remained, seemed to want to say something, but he meekly retreated under the cold stares of the nurses. Thinking that I wouldn't have to see his face anymore, I felt truly liberated. Another half a year later, it seems my sister had a baby safely at a different obstetrics and gynecology clinic. Regardless of what my sister had done, the newborn baby was innocent. Knowing it was a healthy baby girl, I felt relieved deep down. But as for my sister herself, it's a different story. I don't feel a shred of pity for her. As I declared after the baby was born, I sent my sister a letter demanding alimony. The total was 5.3 million yen. Of course, 300,000 yen was for the condolence money for my father's funeral. I planned to deliver it to my mother. As for my husband, no, my ex-husband, life seems to be quite tough with the alimony he owes me. His workplace, due to the rumors of his affair, had no choice but to let him resign. It seems difficult for him to get rehired as a full-time employee. I heard he's juggling temp jobs now. As for who spread the rumors of the affair at his former workplace, I think it's best left unsaid. Furthermore, through the grapevine, I heard he hasn't gotten over his womanizing ways. He seems to be injuring my sister by hitting on any woman close at hand. At this rate, they seem like a suitable couple, and I feel truly refreshed being able to break up with my ex-husband. Now I'm dedicating myself to my work as an obstetrician. Today, 2 mothers to be with big bellies are waiting for my help. Hey Judy, what's wrong? It was a cold day, with Christmas songs playing everywhere in the city. I stopped to admire a tree ornament that caught my eye. My husband, his breath visible in the chilly air, turned his head to look at me from a few steps ahead. He smiled softly, his ears red from the cold. I adored the way he looked at me. Nothing. Let's go home and have dinner. I made hot stew for this especially cold day. Sounds great. Laughing, we held hands and walked down the street. From somewhere, a familiar Christmas song reached my ears. My name is Judy, and what I'm about to tell you is a rather strange Christmas miracle I experienced a few years ago, along with the story leading up to it. You're late. Before I could respond, my husband Dan's anger hit me like a wave. Where have you been? I just went to the closest deli, I replied. It was mid-December, and it felt like it was about to snow. His cuss words chased me out into the cold without my coat just a short time ago. Are you trying to fool me? I'm the breadwinner of this household. When I come home, I expect a proper dinner to be ready and served. Can't you even manage such an easy task? He scolded me harshly in front of the dinner table. No hot sauce? How come you're so lazy about it? There's no way to eat chicken wings without it. Don't mess with me. I had rushed out of the apartment with my wallet and came back with the hot sauce, gasping for breath. His irritation only grew. Deli? Are you crazy? Isn't it cheaper to buy at a supermarket? He pointed at the hot sauce and rolled his eyes. You have no sense of budgeting. I couldn't resist retorting, of course, I buy groceries at the supermarket, but it's far away. I told you earlier, I forgot to buy it today. Anyway, you get upset if the food gets cold. That's why I went to the closest shop. I did forget to add it to my shopping list and had run out. But I was sure the chicken wings tasted fine even without it. I didn't understand why he was so angry about it. His anger didn't cool down at all. Where's your apology? I did apologize earlier, didn't I? What's with your attitude? You're the one who. My retort added fuel to the fire, and he continued throwing his temper at me for another hour. Who wants such stale food now? In the end, he flipped the plate of chicken wings and went out to get dinner elsewhere. A few days later, I went to clean my parents' house, which was up for sale, and stopped by to visit an old lady in the neighborhood whom I called Grandma. Listen, Roma, your prediction was off for the first time. I didn't predict anything, Grandma, who had cared for me since I was a little girl, said, laughing ambiguously. No way. Everything you predicted since I was a kid came true. If they weren't predictions, then prophecies, I said with a wry smile. Remember when you told me not to go to the mall? There was a lightning strike, and it almost burnt down. Another time, you insisted I go out when I wanted to stay home, and my house got robbed. If I had been home, I would have faced the robber for sure. I still got chills remembering it. The robber was caught later with a knife in his pocket. What if I had been home that day? Grandma's predictions often came true, like she was a real prophet. Hey, Grandma. Yes. Even though she said it was all in my mind or just a coincidence, she listened when my voice became serious. I don't think I would have been prepared for my mom's illness if you hadn't told me. She was my only family, and you gave her peace of mind by telling her I'd be blessed with something special one Christmas not far away. My mom was relieved to know I'd have a bright future before she left me. She told me about it in her hospital bed, and it was a ray of hope for her. Seeing her content about it was a sign of her love for me. That's why when Dan proposed to me on Christmas Day, I thought it was just as you predicted. I met him through a mutual friend. He seemed like a humble and gentle guy back then. But once we got married, he turned into an arrogant husband. Just like the hot sauce incident, he got upset over trivial matters. He complained the food was too cold or the salad was too lukewarm, even though he was the one who let it sit while he played on his phone. He criticized everything I did, from cleaning the apartment to washing clothes. Nothing I did was up to his liking, which made me feel trapped and suffocated. I don't want to go back home to him, I whined to Grandma, feeling a sting in my nose. Now it's almost sunset. Don't you have to go back and cook dinner? She glanced at the sky and rushed me, though I was slow to move. Feeling softly rejected, I stood up lazily. You're going to be okay as long as you stand your ground. Even though you'll have struggles, you're going to be happy one day. You'll have a Christmas that will make you jump up and down in joy. So just live straight and truthfully. God is watching. I quickly turned around at her words that softened my heavy heart. Is it a prophecy? Let's see. I'm just an old woman, she said with another ambiguous smile, baffling me. Let's see if I put more effort. Dan might change. I tried to shift my mood, thinking it might have been too early to judge her original prediction. But then it was dinner, massages, ironing his shirt. Dan's hostility toward me only got worse. It wasn't even a year since we got married, but it became normal for him to order me around. Instead of a single kind word, he was constantly grumpy and overbearing. Who do you think you are? He snapped at me one night. What did I do? You don't have the decency to welcome me back home. Who do you think you were to hang around outside until now? I have to warm up my food in a microwave. God darn you. His menace made me sigh. I told you, right? I had a co-op meeting tonight. I even left a note on the table for you. Shut up. That's not an excuse for lazy cooking. What do you mean? I didn't cut corners. I prepared the main dish and sides as usual. If it's not freshly cooked, it's called cutting corners. His logic was messed up. I should be prioritized before anyone and anything. I've been feeding you. You're my wife. You must obey me. That's crazy, I said, stunned by his incomprehensible demand. You have no family and relatives and can't live on your own. A scum like you should shut up and just worship me. If you can't, I'll divorce you, he smirked. It seemed to me that he was releasing his stress by making me obey him. Anyway, give me a foot massage. I tried my best to restrain myself from snapping back at him. He would just become angrier anyway. Most of all, I had nowhere to go in the midst of sleet at night. So I sat down on the floor to give him the massage. My life continued like this until one day, I fainted from excruciating pain in the middle of grocery shopping and was taken to the hospital by ambulance. I don't understand, I murmured, my mind going blank as my doctor explained my condition. This virus is transmitted by sexual intercourse. I had your husband tested as well, and both of you have it. You didn't realize it because there were no symptoms. As far as I can tell, you need surgery. I'm very sorry to say this, but I think the chance of conceiving in the future seems extremely unlikely. Dan followed the doctor hurriedly as he left. I can't have a baby, I repeated to myself. As I absorbed the news, my blank mind slowly filled with darkness. I needed to know more. I tried to follow my doctor and Dan on wobbly legs. Wait, doctor, Dan. But I froze when I heard their conversation. So must everyone out there get tested? Exactly. They must be treated all at once. Otherwise, there's no point. It keeps coming back to you. Would they know what the test is for? Of course, my doctor replied, growing irritated. Listening with despair, I realized the bottom line. Dan had at least 3 girlfriends and was still seeing them. I complained to a picture of my mom in an empty room. I had hoped, even though he's not a good husband now, he might change once we have a baby. I kept Grandma's words about eventual happiness like a good luck charm. But I guess I was wrong. In fact, Dan seemed to only care about his own health. He was diligent about his condition but never showed any concern for me. Having lost my parents, I had a strong longing to have my own baby. I hoped for a happy family with a husband, children, and me. Tears rained down on the picture of my mom in my hands. Mom, I sobbed, covering my mouth with my fingers. Suddenly, Dan appeared. What are you wasting your time for? You haven't prepared dinner yet. Here are the divorce papers. This is your punishment for neglecting your master and making a fuss. He noisily entered the room and threw the papers at my head as I sat down. You are irritatingly depressing. I'm ready to divorce you anytime, no problem for me. You are the one who's going to be in trouble, right? Instead of slacking, do your duty if you don't want a divorce. I'm not slacking. Oh wait, there's one more punishment. I'm not giving you living expenses this month. He looked happy, smirking as he came closer. I'm giving you a chance to reflect and change your attitude. Know your place. If you disobey me, a divorce. When he finished his tirade, he left the room looking refreshed. I stared at the divorce papers, feeling my emotions cool down. Mom, I've decided. Wiping my tears from the picture frame, I spoke to my smiling mother. Watch over me. I kept quiet and continued living with Dan for a while. He treated me like a servant and took out his fits of anger on me. I argued back occasionally but mostly passed the days in silence. One day, during another tantrum over cold stew and lukewarm salad, I sighed internally and decided to act on my plan. If I don't obey you, you're getting a divorce, right? Right. If you don't want me to leave you, reflect on your stupidity, he sneered, leaning back in his chair. You're a bit weak upstairs, aren't you? What the? He fluttered his eyes in surprise at my reply. What did you just say? You repeat the same thing every time. Do you know what vocabulary is? You only utter the word divorce over and over. Your lack of vocabulary is quite sad. What the heck? Let's get a divorce. It's totally fine with me. I'll be a stranger to you, just as you wish. What the? Are you serious? I smiled and said my farewell. His mouth hung open, and he even forgot to get angry as usual. I've already moved all my necessary things out of here. If there's anything you don't need, just throw it away. Goodbye. I shuffled off the apron I had bought and left. When I got married, I folded the apron lightly, placed it gently in front of Dan, and put the house keys on top of it. I looked at him one last time, then left the house with my pre-packed suitcase. What the heck is going on? He yelled, snapping out of his confusion. I could care less. Yay, I'm free, I thought, pretending not to hear anything. With a refreshed feeling, I made my way lightly to my parents' house where I decided to live again. A year later, the divorce was finalized, yet Dan continued contacting me. You were sorry, weren't you? I'll take you back if you apologize. A wife should. His texts were relentless. But I turned off notifications and ignored them, something I'd never done during our marriage. After much persistence from him, I decided to have a final face-to-face meeting at his parents' house. Why have you been ignoring me? Dan asked sensibly, trying to behave in front of his parents. I've been texting you all this time, but you never replied once. Oh yeah, I turned off notifications from you. Why? It was too annoying. Me? Annoying? Yes, you. So what do you want to talk about? His face slowly turned red with anger as I answered in a deliberately annoyed manner. What's with your attitude in front of my parents? What the heck is wrong with you? He finally shouted louder, but then remembered where he was and uttered an apology that he had never made in our marriage. I thought to myself, wow, amazing. He knows how to apologize. I tried my best to resist the urge to make fun of it and prompted him onward. What do you need to talk to your ex-wife about? Hold on, why are you acting so strange? Aren't you struggling after the divorce? How are you living now? He sounded concerned, yet he never came to check on me even though he knew where I was. I didn't mind getting back together if that's what you want. Doesn't that make you happy? He asked. Not at all. I almost laughed at his overconfidence. It doesn't make me happy and doesn't help me in any way. I'm making enough income to support myself. Besides, the living expenses you gave me were only $500 a month. It wasn't enough for what we needed. I mean, you're the one struggling to manage without me, right? The cost I was covering for you is gone, and I'm much more comfortable being alone now. I don't understand the point of getting back together after being free. Puzzled by my casual attitude, he remained unsettled in front of his parents. Listen, Dan, stop acting like a kid who got caught doing mischief and calm down. There's no point in trying to make yourself look good. They know all your secrets. What secrets? I sighed and decided to reveal the truth. You're mistaken about me. I wasn't just a housewife. I told you that I used to live abroad because of my late father's work, right? I used the German I learned back then to translate at home. There were many materials on the bookshelves, you know. I didn't care for those. Those were materials and manuscripts before translation. You never touched them since you had no interest, right? Thanks to that, I was able to hide some equipment to record you. Wait. He was stunned by the word recording. It was his father who presented the evidence. See, all your secrets, like how you used to treat me, are out now. Your parents were in tears watching this and apologized to me. They are ashamed to have raised a son who treated me horribly. Well, being under the spotlight almost made him run for the hills, but his mother grabbed him and made him sit again. She signaled me with her eyes, and I pulled out the papers. These are copies of our divorce papers. There are parts marked with a red circle, which I pointed out to Dan. You know them, don't you? No way. It was understandable for him to be in shock. What I pointed to were the witness signatures, names of people he knew very well. Actually, there wasn't enough space. You had more than 2 girlfriends, right? Wait a sec. No more waiting. Before I could continue, a resentful voice echoed. You never told us about the STD. We only had a relationship with you. That means you brought it in from somewhere else, didn't you? What am I? A fling. Didn't you say we'd get married one day? That's a statement only a bachelor should say. Oh no. We watched the video too. You are a villain, not only to us but to all women. You are the #1 public enemy. You are finished. Surrounded by his girlfriends, Dan crumbled to the floor. His parents sighed exaggeratedly. I had a private detective look into his girlfriends and secretly contacted them. Of course, I had told my ex-in-laws the whole story too. The result was this chaos. Your game is up now. There was a strong request from his parents that their son needed punishment. All his girlfriends and I demanded compensation from him. He worked for a company owned by a family member of his mother, so the payments were deducted from his payroll to prevent him from escaping. He was forcibly taken back to his parents' home and under their strict supervision faced a long period of compensation payments. 6 years have passed since then. Hey Judy, what's wrong? It's a cold day when Christmas songs play everywhere in the city. I stopped to look at a tree ornament that caught my eye. My husband, whose white breath clings in the air, turns his head to look at me from a few steps ahead. He's smiling softly, his ears red from the cold. The little girl in his arms also has rosy cheeks. I adore them so much. Grandma's prediction is actually amazing, I murmured. My current husband is surprisingly the brother of one of Dan's girlfriends. I hit it off with the girlfriends afterward and sometimes hang out with them. I met him by chance, and he gently soothed my depression. It's really a strange story. If it wasn't for what happened with Dan, I'm sure I wouldn't have met my current husband. So that's what Grandma meant when she said I'd struggle but be happy, I mused. Once again, I was amazed by Grandma's prediction. Moreover, after we got married, I got pregnant, which was said to be extremely unlikely. I remember getting sick on Christmas Day and being rushed to the emergency room, where the doctor indicated I was pregnant. I was literally jumping up and down with my husband, and the annoyed nurse scolded us to keep calm and rest. It was a true Christmas miracle. This time of year makes me reflect deeply. I've been hurt a lot by Dan, but now I'm so happy. Mommy, I came out of my thoughts when my daughter left my husband's arms and clung to me in her fuzzy coat. Nothing. Let's go home and have dinner. It's hot stew for an especially cold day. I've already prepared it. Sounds great, yay. Laughing, we held hands and walked down the street. From somewhere, a familiar Christmas song reached my ears. My name is Ava, and with the slightest change in climate, my rural home becomes infested with insects every year. I put my heart and soul into pest control. At 34 years old, I've transformed from a housewife into nothing less than a hunter. Once upon a time, bugs used to scare me. I used to say such things without any embarrassment. But once I passed 30, I started facing them with a poker face. Indeed, I've become quite tough. Today, I'd like to share a story about how I dealt with my younger sister who fell in love with my husband. This happened years ago, back when I was in my 20s. A junior high school reunion was held for the first time in many years, where I reconnected with my childhood friend Josh, who used to live in my neighborhood during elementary school. My sister Emily, 2 years younger than me, and I used to play with Josh a lot. But as typical boy sentiments grew stronger, playing with girls became embarrassing for him. Josh distanced himself from us when his family moved away in junior high, and we lost touch. At the reunion, I was nervous when reconnecting with Josh, but adulthood brought its strong ally, alcohol. Josh, loosened by its power, and I, emboldened by the same, had a lively conversation that was hard to believe after such a long time apart. We continued to party together, and by the end of the night, Josh confessed, "I used to like you when we were kids, and it seems like I can still like you as an adult." With this light-hearted exchange, our relationship began. Later, when sober, Josh joked, "Man, I said too much. Am I embarrassing? Who the hell do I think I am?" I couldn't help but laugh at his embarrassment. Everything fell into place, and we decided to get married. We visited each other's homes and completed the formalities for cohabitation and marriage planned for 6 months later. However, a problem arose at my house when Josh came to meet my family over a meal. As my sister returned home from work with a deflated voice, her surprise at seeing Josh turned quickly into a happy expression. "Wow, Josh, why are you here?" Embarrassed, Josh glanced at me and then explained, "Actually, we've been dating for about half a year now, and we've decided to get married. I came here today to inform our parents." I thought I should explain to my family, so I told my sister the circumstances. Her face turned visibly grim. "I see. I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. Good night," she said abruptly, retreating to her room and slamming the door shut. Wow, that was unpleasant," I said to Josh, worried that I had made him uncomfortable. But he reassured me with a smile. "I'm not bothered by it." Wanting to clear things up for my sister's sake, I added, "She's not usually like that. Maybe she's just not happy about us living together." Even our parents didn't show any problems, so I couldn't understand my sister's strong reaction. Still puzzled, I debated whether to ask her directly, but as I headed to the bath, I ran into her in the hallway. I started, unsure how to begin, as she fixed me with a devilish glare. "I can't believe you're marrying Josh. I've always loved him too. I'll never forgive you for this." With the rage of a demon, she stumped away, leaving me staring at her unexpected confession. Seriously, she was in love with Josh. I muttered to myself, feeling like the plot was straight out of a daytime drama, holding my head in disbelief. After a night of restless tossing and turning, I finally found clarity. Is it really a problem if my sister loves my fiancé? After all, our marriage is already decided. If Josh had loved my sister, it would have been a different story, but that's not the case. More importantly, if she's felt this way since childhood, she should have told him sooner. Realizing it was my sister's failure to express her feelings that caused this turmoil, I decided it was absurd for her to blame me. Though I could sense her growing hostility towards me as her older sister, I chose to let it slide. Despite the gravity of the situation, I opted for an optimistic view and decided to let it go. However, I was torn about whether to tell Josh. On one hand, revealing my sister's feelings might complicate things for Josh, I reasoned. But if I don't tell him, he'll sense the tension whenever he visits without understanding why. Considering Josh's involvement, I ultimately decided honesty was the best policy. "I have to tell him," I resolved. When I finally did, Josh listened attentively and reassured me, "Tell me if anything happens. I'll handle it." "True, it's a sister issue," I acknowledged, relieved by Josh's understanding. "If she gets too aggressive, maybe he'll use you as a shield," I joked nervously. "Don't joke like that," Josh chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. With our decision made, neither of us wavered in our commitment to marry. Convincing my sister was not our aim. We simply accepted the situation. From then on, as expected, my sister's animosity towards me only grew. On one occasion, after she used the bathroom before me, she left it messy without cleaning up. "This isn't a big deal. It's just a shower," I sighed, trying to brush it off. I could even afford to joke about how cute my little sister was for pulling such a modest, shabby prank. However, having my makeup and wallet hidden before heading to work was a real blow. "I don't have time for a treasure hunt in the morning," I muttered, desperately searching for them. Trembling at the thought of being late, I barely made it to work on time twice in 1 week. "You're not slacking off with your wedding coming up, are you?" My boss eyed me coldly, adding to my frustration. "I won't forgive her." No, I'm the big sister. I should forgive her. But I won't. No, I muttered to myself, conflicted. Initially, my parents were unaware of my sister's harassment, but after she started hiding my valuables, they began to notice something was off. "Why are you doing such childish things?" My mother scolded my sister, though my sister seemed to revel in annoying me. The real issue, however, was my father. Ever since my sister was born and my mother's health declined, he had cared for her as if she were still a newborn. He doted on her more than me, or rather, he was biased towards her. His experience in parenting had made him feel like a mother, and I couldn't fault him for that. I, too, loved my sister, especially considering the tough times we grew up in together. Reflecting on our different treatment, I recall the childhood incident when I had wanted to go to an amusement park, but she had insisted on the aquarium. My father, always siding with her, promptly decided on the aquarium. I remembered my mother, always checking if I was okay with his decisions, asking, "Are you sure it's okay not to go to the amusement park?" Honestly, I don't harbor any bitter memories of my father's favoritism towards my sister, but if my mother hadn't balanced things out, I might have felt inferior. Plus, at the time, even my friends remarked about how my sister received more affection. I didn't dwell on it. I simply accepted that there was a bias in love everywhere. Maybe it's just my inherently optimistic personality. I always look for reasons not to feel down. But this time, my father clearly took my sister's side. Apparently, she accused Josh of stealing her boyfriend, which in my father's eyes painted Josh as the villain. I understood his protective stance, imagining the plight of the sister who was left behind while her elder sister was about to get married. In response to my father's thoughts, my mother intervened, saying, "I don't see Josh as the kind of person who would do such a thing," voicing her skepticism. "No, that's not true. Listen to my opinion," I countered, hoping they would consider both sides fairly. My mother, known for not taking our words at face value and judging us fairly, tried to mediate. But my father's protective instincts overruled reason. "I can't bear to see my poor sister dumped, and even my elder daughter being played with," he insisted adamantly. "I won't allow this man to take advantage of my beloved daughters. Wake up." It felt like I was being pushed into a corner, unable to make my voice heard amidst my father's firm convictions. Though he loved us deeply, his favoritism caused a strain this time. The growing opposition to my marriage troubled me deeply. So, I made a decision. I would leave home earlier than planned and live with Josh. Simply put, if the issue stemmed from my sister, distancing myself seemed the best solution. If I'm not at home, I won't be harassed. Problem solved, I reasoned, finding peace in the decision. And indeed, our life together passed peacefully after that. As days went by, my mother softened her stance, acknowledging, "I think your side of the story is probably right. You're an adult now. Do as you like, live freely." Surprisingly, my father remained silent, though dissatisfied. Deep down, he probably thought that even if Josh and I broke up, I would be pitiful, and he couldn't fathom Josh turning to my sister. I suppose my father thought it was the best solution. I felt sorry for Josh, unfairly painted as a villain, but with no word from my troublesome sister, I thought everything had settled. Then came the wedding day. As expected, my sister didn't attend, and my father took the opportunity to suggest, "It's not too late to reconsider your decision to marry. Marriage comes with all sorts of challenges, so be prepared." My mother, always mild-mannered, added, "Needless to say, really?" In the background, my father looked pale. Not everyone might have blessed us from the bottom of their hearts, but under our parents' watchful eyes, we exchanged vows. The next day, the intercom of our home chimed loudly. "What's going on?" Josh and I jumped up, rushing to the monitor. To our surprise, my family was visiting us, Dad, Mom, and even Emily. "What's going on?" I asked, bewildered, as my younger sister glared at me with sharp eyes. I kept quiet, but she continued, I'm pregnant with Josh's child. You have to take responsibility. What does this mean? I blurted out in shock. Fortunately, we don't have a child yet. You can't just force us to break up and marry Josh. Ignoring my protests, she persisted, you should give Josh to her. Confused, my mother intervened, asking, what's going on? Josh, still half asleep, stumbled to the front door behind me. What? My child? He shook his head vehemently. No, it's not like that. We didn't do anything like that. His denial was almost comically emphatic. I know. You should stop this panic. It's suspicious, I added, trying to hold back laughter. How many months pregnant are you? My sister pressed on, undeterred. 2 months. If Josh doesn't take responsibility, this child will be fatherless. Isn't that pitiful, Mom? Startled by my sister's sudden revelation, my mother looked between us, clearly uncertain of how to respond. Josh and I exchanged amused looks, struggling to contain our laughter. Ha ha ha, I chuckled nervously, trying to explain our laughter to our confused parents who couldn't grasp the reason behind it. What are you laughing at? My sister Emily asked, flustered by our sudden outburst. Well, 2 months ago, I started, tears welling up from laughing too hard. We had fun last time, didn't we? Josh interjected, catching my sister off guard with his unexpected question. My parents remained perplexed, their expressions filled with disapproval as they didn't understand Josh's playful intentions. I was probably the only one who caught on to his subtle plan. By the way, Emily, how many abs do I have? Josh continued, throwing another curveball. Emily looked blank, clearly puzzled. I was on the verge of bursting into laughter again. Josh, are you serious? Talking about your abs like you've lost them, I managed to say between giggles. What are you talking about, Josh? Emily asked, clearly bewildered. The correct answer is 0. I was about to confirm that Josh was just teasing when he solemnly confessed, I actually have no abs. Even my mom couldn't help but chuckle at his antics. It seemed like a contest to see who could make the other laugh the most. Here's question 2. Have you seen my moles? How many do I have in total? Josh continued, his strange questions leaving my sister at a loss for words. Hey, wait, what? Emily stammered, unsure how to respond. Josh persisted with his playful interrogation, leaving my sister flustered. Well, that's to be expected, I thought, seeing Josh's mischievous grin and my sister's confused expression. It was like a game to him, delighting in teasing her and watching her struggle to answer. Despite knowing she could end it by denying everything, Josh seemed to enjoy keeping her on her toes. In fact, even my mother began to suspect something was amiss. Isn't there something odd about their relationship? She murmured quietly, observing the dynamic between my sister and Josh. Of course, I thought, realizing that such banter wouldn't be possible if they were genuinely intimate. Moreover, it would be too embarrassing in front of our parents. The very act of having such a light-hearted conversation was proof that nothing had actually happened between them. Josh was simply enjoying his own way of playfully teasing Emily like a child with a new toy. It was both amusing and slightly unsettling. What a mischievous man he could be. I watched closely, wondering how my sister would react to Josh's playful banter. She pondered the second question, visibly tense. On like 10, she finally answered, nervously guessing. Buzz, sorry, the correct answer is I don't even know, Josh proclaimed dramatically. Even my father couldn't contain his laughter, doubling over in amusement. At the same time, to cover his amusement, he feigned frustration. Love is enough, Josh. Don't you dare joke around after causing my daughter such distress. My father interjected sternly, preparing to scold Josh. Wait, listen, I interjected, trying to diffuse the tension. You said the pregnancy was 2 months along, right? Considering the conception period, there's no way the child could be Josh's. What do you mean? My mother asked, intrigued by my point. Can I say it? I glanced at Josh, who reluctantly nodded with a deeply embarrassed expression. Wait, hold on. Can I say it? Can you? Josh stammered nervously. Oh yeah, I'll do it, I replied, despite the awkwardness. Josh puffed out his chest bravely. Mom and Dad, the truth is, during that time, I was stung by a bee in a very sensitive area. At this revelation, everyone, even my sister, burst out laughing uncontrollably. That's enough of the lies, Josh. There's no way you were stunned there, my father exclaimed, torn between anger and amusement, while my mother laughed uproariously, clapping her hands. No, well, it's embarrassing, but it's true, Josh insisted, his face and ears turning bright red rapidly. It was hot, so I thought I'd cool off. Taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't be seen from outside, I opened the window and was relaxing in the nude when a bee flew in and stung me. I struggled to contain my laughter, trying to respect Josh's embarrassment in front of my family, but it was too hilarious not to join in. There's no way a man could be that embarrassing, my father chuckled, shaking his head. Well, that embarrassingly embarrassing man is right here, Josh retorted loudly, trying to defend himself. That still doesn't prove that the child in my belly isn't from Josh's seed, my sister interjected, regaining her stance and joining the conversation with renewed vigor. Emily, think about it, I reasoned. Josh got stung in a very important place. Dad, imagine if that happened to you as a man. You'd understand the pain of having such a vital area harmed. My sister fell silent, considering my serious tone. Meanwhile, my father, who seemed to have visualized the situation based on Josh's explanation, quietly clutched his groin and looked down thoughtfully. Though he tried to maintain a stern face, it was clear he was starting to believe Josh's unlikely tale. It's a really delicate area for men, so it was tough. I even thought about calling an ambulance, Josh concluded, his embarrassment evident despite his attempt at humor. I couldn't help but respond to Josh's story with embarrassment. I had a fever, it was tough, and doing the deed in that state would be way too kinky. You can even check with the hospital that took care of me if you want, Josh explained in an almost inaudible voice. To my surprise, my mother burst into laughter. Josh, didn't you used to have a habit of taking off your swimsuit when you played in a kiddie pool? She teased, approaching him with playful curiosity. Why don't you show me where you were stung? Josh tried to dodge my mother's playful inquiry, covering not his private area, but his irrelevant chest. From what I saw, my mother seemed to fully trust him now, which gave me a sense of relief, although Josh didn't seem to share the same feeling. Well, I sympathize as a man. I don't think anyone would lie about such an embarrassing thing. There's no need to check with the hospital, my father chimed in, his expression unusually kind towards Josh, as if respecting his dignity. Ironically, it seemed that understanding came quicker among men in this situation. I wondered if this was what they called a blessing in disguise. Amidst this light-hearted banter, I turned to my sister, who stood in a daze. Even if you lie like this, it won't lead to Josh and me getting divorced. I think you're just making yourself more miserable, I said calmly. You may not believe me, but I really want you to be happy. After all, you're my only sister. My sister's eyes widened in anger. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I don't like Josh anymore. If he's going to take your side, she snapped, emotional and reaching out to grab me. I don't care if you don't like me. I love Ava, and that's all that matters, Josh firmly asserted, brushing off my sister's hand. I consider Emily a precious childhood friend and now my sister-in-law. I never have and never will see her as anything more. If you keep repeating these lies, I'll defend Ava with all my strength. I couldn't help but feel moved by his words. He had come a long way from the man who was embarrassed by a bee sting, muttering about the world being his enemy. Watching this unfold, my father intervened. Emily, if you're really pregnant, show us your medical records or something, he requested, his tone serious. With that, my parents made it clear they had believed Emily's pregnancy claims without any basis. I appreciated their unquestioning trust in their children, though this time it seemed to have backfired. If you've lied, you owe both of them an apology, my mother added sternly. My sister, visibly shaken and biting her lip, turned away with tears in her eyes. My father moved to follow her, but my mother stopped him. Let her go and cool off, she advised. 2 weeks passed. My sister continued to insist she was pregnant, but my mother finally persuaded her to visit a gynecologist. The diagnosis: no signs of pregnancy and perfectly good health. We're sorry for dudding you and causing you so much trouble, my parents apologized sincerely. We should have trusted Josh, whom we've known for so long. Please take care of Ava and forgive us for making this difficult for you both. They bowed their heads apologetically. To be honest, I couldn't blame my parents. I haven't discussed the strained relationship with my sister with my parents. They have always believed in their daughters without question, a quality that society might view in various ways, but for me, it has been a source of immense reassurance. Despite occasional favoritism towards my sister, especially from my father, I have come to forgive them for the mistakes they made. They raised me well, and without them, I wouldn't have met Josh or lived such a happy life. When my sister's lie about being pregnant was exposed, she reacted angrily, declaring, "I don't need this family anymore," and stormed out of the house. Normally, my father would have gone after her, but this time he suggested it might be better for Emily to take some time away, a cooling off period. My mother agreed, adding firmly, "If she can't come back and sincerely apologize, we won't let her back into this house." Deep down, I doubted my sister would ever apologize sincerely. It felt like a definitive break between us. 7 years passed. My sister did return once, bowing her head to her parents and asking to come back. Initially noble in her return, by the end of the year she had caused a significant incident while heavily intoxicated. One tumultuous New Year's Eve, she sneaked into Josh's bed, mistaking it for mine, and startled him awake. Both of us, along with our parents, were shocked by the disturbance. "Don't approach him," I warned her angrily. Josh, startled, exclaimed loudly enough to wake the neighbors. "Oh!" My parents, usually composed, jumped up in surprise. It was a scene that revealed the extent of my sister's issues. In her drunken state, she blurted out, "I'm tired of seeing you two always together. It's okay for him to spend time with me." I was furious and demanded she get her act together. Even my parents, usually gentle, expressed unprecedented anger. My father, who had once adored my sister, was visibly disgusted. "I didn't raise a child who would attack a man in his sleep," he declared sternly. "I'll never forget this." Despite my sister's tearful apologies once she sobered up, my father remained resolute. "Your actions when drunk reveal your true feelings. I can't trust anything you say anymore." With that, my parents disowned her. It was a painful but necessary decision. Meanwhile, I discovered I was pregnant for the first time shortly before this turbulent New Year's Eve. Since then, I've given birth to 3 children, including twins, making me a mother of 4 by the age of 34. Life with 4 children is chaotic, walls scribbled with crayons, daily struggles with clothes and toothbrushing, but seeing their sleeping faces each night makes it all worthwhile. My parents adore their grandchildren, often visiting to help with childcare. Josh, too, is deeply involved, despite the challenges. He handles the chaos with a smile, even as he worries about his thinning hair from constant hair pulling during piggyback rides. I find it amusing and endearing to see Josh grappling with hair loss. With his promotion and improved salary, he could afford treatments, but I secretly enjoy watching him embrace fatherhood in all its messy glory. Our home is far from quiet and calm. It's lively and noisy, but I couldn't be happier.